This is the Almost Timely newsletter for the week of July 21st, 2024. Content authenticity statement. 100% of this week's newsletter was generated by me, the human. Clearly, this is not an AI-generated video. Let's get started. What's on my mind this week? My AI-enabled content marketing process. It has been a little while since I've last looked at my overall content marketing process, but over on LinkedIn, Peter and a couple of the folks were asking about it, so I thought I'd take some time and step through it. So first, let's talk about the strategy. My overall strategy is actually one I picked up from Jay Baer years ago. Jay said, having the recipe doesn't make you a chef, which he was talking about how a lot of marketers are afraid of giving away knowledge because they're afraid that people are going to copy it or people are going to steal it and stuff like that. And his assurance to folks was, just because you have the recipe doesn't mean you know how to cook it, right? So you can give away recipes and not feel like you've given away a competitive advantage. It's an amazing way to encapsulate how I think about creating and sharing content. Strategically, I think about my content as a cooking show, more or less, right? I create content and I show off recipes around AI, data science, and analytics with the understanding that it's not the whole picture, right? Nor is it the process in full for any given task. Just like a cooking show doesn't last for 6 hours while a roast is in the oven or bread is rising and baking. They always have a, hey, we made this earlier and here it is kind of thing, right? That's what's going on. It's pretty clear that in the span of 22 minutes, someone did not bake a loaf of bread from scratch. My content, same thing. It does not show the boring, long wait parts of the process, waiting for models to do their thing, waiting for stuff to scroll by, waiting for the model priming to be done. All that stuff gets omitted. And like a cooking show, the strategic intent of the content that I create is to entertain to some degree, to educate, and to inspire, with the understanding that a significant portion of the audience, you, maybe, have no interest, absolutely no interest in cooking the dish themselves. People are going to want to see it for the entertainment of it, but no interest in cooking it. And this is why this strategy works. Those same people would gladly show up at a restaurant to have it cooked for them. Right? That is the secret to, that's not really a secret, of this content marketing strategy, right? In general, there's three kinds of content strategy, or three kinds of services, three ways you can provide assistance to people, right? Just like there's three broad categories of consuming food: done for you, done with you, and done by you. Done for you is the restaurant. You ain't gonna cook. You show up, you pay a premium to have someone else make the dish for you, but you have almost no effort on your part other than showing up, eating, and paying the bill. When you hire my company, Trust Insights, a good amount of the time, clients are looking for us to do the cooking. They want to eat at our restaurant. And I really enjoy that work immensely. Of the three types, it pays the best, right? But it's also interesting because you can really put to test your knowledge and see, let's just see how far we can take this. The second category, done with you. It's like a meal kit. Right? You order from a delivery service, this big box arrives on your doorstep, and they provide a meal kit that lets you do some of the cooking, but the majority of the boring stuff is already done. All the slicing and chopping and measuring and stuff. Yeah, you still have to do some work, but it's not a restaurant. And you still pay a premium, right? But it's not necessarily as high a premium as going out to eat. In my content strategy and my service strategy, when you hire me to lead a workshop or as a keynote speaker, it's more or less what you're buying. The what's shown on stage is instructional to a degree, but a lot of the work's been done for you. Done for you is you doing the cooking. You get the recipe, sure, and then you go and buy your groceries. You cook in your kitchen, you make the dish, you serve the dish, you have to clean up the dishes after you're done. You pay for the raw materials and money, and then you pay in time and effort to make the dish, as well as pay in terms of skill development, because there's some dishes you need the skills to make them, right? If you're going to make a beef Wellington, that's a skill. If you're going to poach eggs, that's a skill, right? anyone anyone who's watched the Netflix show Nailed It knows that skills are a pretty substantial differentiator. When you buy my books or subscribe to this newsletter, watch my YouTube channel, read my content around the internet, you're getting the recipes, right? You're accepting the responsibility of doing all the cooking, all the labor. It is the lowest cost in financial terms, but you are responsible for doing all the work yourself. And that's a key point to the entire spectrum. The overall cost is more or less the same, right? Whether you have Trust Insights just do it all for you and like a magic wand it's done, or you get the recipes and you spend the next 2 years learning how to do all these things. It's a question of how much of the cost is money versus time, effort, and skill. No matter what approach you prefer, you pay in some fashion. We all do. We all pay. It's just a question of whether it's in currency or not, and what that currency is. So that's a strategy. I approach things as a cooking show. Now, what about the recipe? What about the implementation? I have a flow for my personal content that goes roughly like this: seed, post, video, audio, article, newsletter. Let's step through each of these pieces so that you get understanding what they mean. First, the seed, the idea that gives rise to the content. Where do I get ideas? Ideas for me come from a few different places. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn and Threads reading through what other people have to say. I don't interact a ton. I sneeze and hit the like button accidentally, but I'm not a voracious commenter. But I do read. I read a ton. And so I will comment on posts that interest me, and those comments can become full posts of their own. I talked about this not too long ago on a content from comment to content, I believe I called it at the time. Other times, I will see something that annoys me so much that I need to write a contrarian piece about it, and it inspires new content. I don't denigrate the original author, but I saw one thing this morning. Someone's soliciting, hey, send me your best prompts. And I'm like, there's a piece of content here coming out of that. Another source of seeds is from webinars and events. I have given dozens of these talks over the years, and I collect the questions from the Q&A portion. Anytime you're in a virtual webinar, there's the Q&A panel, and I copy and paste that before the room closes from my sessions. Now, you might think I'd run out of questions after a while, and if I stuck with the original questions, that would be true, but I don't. I take the questions, I feed them to generative AI, and I ask the language model to infer what additional questions the audience might ask based on the questions I've already asked, and I build an audience profile. And there's a link to a live stream episode we did of building audience profiles. I did this recently. I was at a CMO live event, a virtual event. Got like 40 questions, and of course the CMOs, because it was private, it was a private thing. I had all their names, so I got their LinkedIn profiles, put them all into a language model, and said, okay, here's the questions they already asked. Write 20 new questions based on the questions they asked. I got a great list of questions, and then we extended this with Gemini. I said, okay, now write 20 questions that one of these folks would ask privately, a trusted advisor, a confidant, not in a public, not in a forum, not in any place where they would feel like embarrassed asking questions like, I should know the answer to this. And I came up with a list of 20 great new questions that really do start to dig into the way these folks think. And then I asked, now, give me 20 questions that these CMOs would think about, but would never dare give voice to because it would be so controversial. Like, hey, I wonder if I can get it to do this, right? And you can imagine the kinds of things where that line of thinking is going. But the questions that came up were fantastic. Let me take a pause for a moment here and see what some of those questions are. Oh yeah, my inferred questions. So questions like, what if our AI-powered campaign goes rogue and we can't control it? If everyone starts using AI to game the system, won't marketing just become a noise war and nobody can win? What happens to human connection to authenticity in marketing if everything's driven by algorithms? Is it wrong to use AI to create hyper-personalized ads that play on people's insecurities? It's super effective, but is it wrong? Right? So these are the questions that, yeah, a CMO might ask. maybe privately or maybe not out loud at all, but you never run out of questions this way. You never, ever. So as long as you've got existing questions to get a sense of what's on their minds, and you've got your audience profile, you have an infinite amount of targeted, focused, intelligent questions that are very likely the questions people have in their minds. And the third source of ideas is just whatever's bouncing around in my head at any given time. I use the voice notes app on my phone. I use the reminders app on my watch and stuff, and pretty much any memory capture mechanism I can, so that when I think of something, and I'm out walking the dog or taking a shower or whatever, I have some way of recording, I have some way of writing it down. Often, as I did with last week's newsletter, it's a half-baked mishmash of words and ideas, but occasionally it gels together, like last week's newsletter did. For example, the two things that are most recently on my list here are iPhone Peltier cooler case, which I was thinking about using the Peltier cooling effect to cool the iPhone off, and what it would take to build something like that, and what is responsible AI anyways. So I'll probably have a post about that. Once I've got a seed, an idea, I write a post for LinkedIn. LinkedIn is my first destination to post these idea seeds because of the length limits. You can't go on forever. So it's like 5 or 6 paragraphs. I want to see if this idea has any legs at all. So I'll draft a post for LinkedIn. I also get the benefit of seeing how well people engage with an idea, whether it deserves to be made into something bigger or, it's out there and crickets. I know that people are like, okay, that wasn't helpful. For the ideas that do get traction and feedback, which I mentally define as any post that gets comments that aren't AI spam, we know who you are, folks, and at least 1,000 impressions on the platform, I then bundle those up on Sunday afternoons, and I shoot them as videos. Ideally, a total of 5, one for each day of the work week. If you're on my YouTube channel, you will see that. That's even though it seems like it's a daily video, I just do it all in a big batch. I record typically natively on my Mac using QuickTime, or if I need to show something, I'll use StreamYard for that. I do these in bulk, sitting down for anywhere between 25 and 45 minutes to generate the videos as one big block. And then take the block, stuff it in Adobe Premiere, do color adjustment, do audio engineering on the block as a whole, because there's a very specific sound that I want it to have. Then I cut it up into pieces. Each piece gets rendered as video, gets turned into MP3 audio for a podcast. The audio then goes into whisper.cpp, which is a local AI transcription model. That becomes rough transcripts that I then stick into Google Gemini, and it cleans those up and makes them readable. And then I make YouTube captions and tags using Gemini. After that, each video, I post it to YouTube, and I put up an accompanying blog post on my website, put the MP3s on Libsyn as a podcast, and boom, content everywhere. If I'm feeling motivated and caffeinated, that process takes about 90 minutes on a Sunday afternoon or early evening. This is all stuff that I do on the weekend and on my own time. It's not part of my day-to-day work. I schedule the post, and that's that. When a local AI version, which would have no limits because it runs on your computer, when a local version of software like Opus Clips comes out that uses local AI models, I will probably start making shorts and reels and stuff from those videos. But right now, I'm not inclined to invest the time or the money to do that. After all that, if there's a seed that really stuck out or has outperformed, I'll make that into a newsletter topic. If not, I'll just write the newsletter normally, which is I usually do on Saturday afternoons or evenings. The newsletter beginning to end usually takes about 2 hours a week of just mostly getting the idea out of my head. For whatever reason, I prefer to write my newsletter on my iPad. I use an app called Joplin, which is free and open source, and then I do the production work at my desk, as you can see. But I like the iPad writing experience a lot. This process, we do a more advanced version of this process for the Trust Insights podcast and live stream that involves much more stuff like people making those reels and social media sharing and scheduling. But I don't feel like investing the time in it for my personal stuff, nor do I feel like paying anyone to do it. I know there's going to be like one person's like, hey, have you considered hiring someone? Hey, no, I haven't. As AI evolves, I'm sure I'll be able to have a model and some Python code to do that for me eventually, but not right now. I would guess, and this is purely speculative guess that within a year's time, I'll have some code that can do those shorts and reels locally, and maybe even orchestrate the different pieces together so I can just drop the video in and the pieces all flow out. I think we're close to that. We're close to that. So that's the implementation of my content marketing strategy from beginning to end. What's notable about it is the idea reuse. I'm following the reverse of my friend Todd Defrin's content atomization strategy way back in 2008, long before anyone else had the idea, or at least was talking about it publicly. Todd said that the ideal strategy, and this was within the context of social media, was to produce a piece of huge pillar content and then divide it up into as many pieces as possible to distribute it everywhere. That is a sound strategy, and it still works today. My strategy goes in reverse, like the T1000 Liquid Terminator. I have lots of bits of ideas and content all over the place that flow together, that aggregate, they get larger and more complex, from threads, replies, and LinkedIn comments, ultimately turning into long form pieces, from comment to content. My upcoming book, The Intelligence Revolution, is going to be the culmination of this process. I'm using generative AI to glue together 2 years worth of LinkedIn posts and blog posts and YouTube videos and newsletters. It's all my words. It's just AI is sewing it all together. It's not plagiarism if you're only stealing from yourself. Well, technically it's still plagiarism, but there's no legal consequences. No one's going to sue you for stealing from yourself. This process is also a guideline. It's not rigid. It's not the rules. It's not the way things have to be. It's just my process, and I can change it at any time. Since for my personal stuff, not the Trust Insight stuff, we have a great team for the Trust Insight stuff. But for my personal stuff, there's only a team of me, plus AI, right? I can make alterations whenever I want. I can change procedures whenever I want. I can break all the rules, and I don't get in trouble for it. Sometimes an idea will skip the line, right? Sometimes an idea is so good, I'm like, I'm not going to post on LinkedIn. I'm just going to go straight to making that into a video. Other times, I want to publish an idea on an owned property first, like a newsletter or a blog post, so I can lay claim to it as soon as possible, because I don't want it to be on LinkedIn first. I want it to be on my turf first. You'll see it. You're going to see this next week, so the week of July 22nd. You will see it on the Trust Insights podcast, and you'll see it in the Trust Insights newsletter. So stay tuned for those about what this new idea is that I want to establish ownership of first. But in general, this is the recipe I try to stick to, mainly so that I don't have to make distinct content for every possible channel. I can take what I'm already doing and reuse it. So that's my workflow for now. As tools and technologies evolve, it will change. The release of Gemini 1.5 earlier this year changed my process substantially from what it used to be. And I anticipate future changes will alter it even more. But what's more important to note is that even though I leverage AI a ton in the process of varying types, the ideas and outcomes, they're all still mine, right? All the stuff is still coming out of my head, not because AI can't do those parts. It can very capably, but because I enjoy it. I enjoy the process of making content. If I didn't enjoy this, I would not do this on my Saturday afternoons, my Sunday afternoons. I would do something else, right? Watch TV or play video games or something, but I like making content. And because my newsletter and my associated properties have always been a bit of a hobby, I see no reason to turn anything over to the machines that I enjoy. I absolutely turn over the parts I don't enjoy, like transcript cleanup. That sucks. Machines can do that now. Happy to let them do that. And I turn that over as quick as I can. But for something that's yours, and this is a really important point about generative AI, if there's something you really enjoy doing, you should never feel compelled to automate it away. Right? Don't automate away the fun parts. Keep the fun parts for yourself. Let the machines do the parts you don't enjoy. So that's the behind the scenes of my content marketing cooking show. Welcome to the show. How does it compare to your processes? What, if anything, would you do differently or better if you were in my shoes? What, if anything, would you borrow from my recipe to incorporate into your own content marketing cooking? Let me know. Hit reply, leave a comment, whatever. All right, what else happened this week? Let's see. I have, new webinar, generative AI for email marketing. There's a link at the top of the newsletter. Go check that out. I did that as a session at the Modicon conference, but it's broadly applicable. Let's see. The content this week. We did a really fun live stream this week on advanced prompting techniques in generative AI. Katie did the driving, which was fun. And we talked through how generative AI prompting is like code. And I think you'll get a lot of useful, more advanced tips from that. So go check that out. There's a link in the newsletter for that. Also covered this week, X factors, nothing to do with the social network, in the future of work, which was a sobering piece to write. But I do talk about the way the world is changing. There's a whole bunch of jobs that are really necessary, and we don't have enough people in them. And the demand is only going to increase. So those are going to be very, very lucrative areas of work. Talked about also the generative AI licensing wars for content, generative AI as a programming language, and the value of creative work in the age of AI. So lots of stuff to check out there. Let's see what else we got. Jobs this week. Let's take a look at what we got. We have AI solution architect at Whitecap AI, content marketing manager at Firefly, data science and analytics director at Home Thrive, director of communications at Grammarly, Gen AI lead at Ali.ai, generative AI architect at Akunor, generative AI developer at Optimi, generative AI game developer at Stardock, Gusto digital analyst, Gusto, junior search and analytics expert at Curamondo, and machine learning research of carbon neutrality at Toyota Research Institute. That sounds really cool. And senior data scientist of generative AI at Harvard Business School. So lots and lots of AI hiring right now. Upcoming events, just a couple of months until MACON, the Marketing AI Conference. I put up on the YouTube channel a music video I did as a promotion for MACON. I want you to go check that out. I'll link it in the newsletter. There's a speaker discount. If you use discount code PENN100 at registration, you'll save $100. Marketing Profs B2B Forum coming up in Boston, November. Social media marketing world already booking into 2025, which is crazy when you think about it. Plus, I don't list them because they're not open to the public. There's like half a dozen private events too. So the calendar is filling up quickly, which is always fun. And if you'd like me to come to your event or your corporate retreat or your strategy meeting or your QBR or whatever, let me know. I do that stuff. That's going to do it for this week. Thank you, as always, for being here, for watching and listening or reading or however you choose to get the newsletter. I will talk to you all next time. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And if you want to know when new videos are available, hit the bell button to be notified as soon as new content is live.